Welcome to the HR Data Labs podcast, now part of the Work-Defined Podcast Network. Join us as we explore the vital role of compensation, strategy, data, and people analytics in navigating today's complex business world. With the resources of Work-Defined, we're now bringing you deeper insights and actionable ideas from top experts. Now, here is your host, David Turetsky. Hello and welcome. I am your host, David Turetsky. And as always, we try and find the most fascinating people inside and outside the world of HR to talk to you about what's going on. And today I have with us Stephen Rothberg from collegerecruiter.com. How are you, Stephen?
I'm good, David. Good to see you again.
Good to see you again, too. Stephen and I have talked a lot in the last couple of days.
My apologies for that, by the way.
No, it's all good. It's all good because we're trying to kickstart the HR channel or hrchannel.tv, the hrchannel.tv. And Stephen has signed on and he's phenomenal. And he's got hundreds of great episodes. And you can find him there. You can find him on the Work-Defined Podcast Network with his co-hosts. You can also find him. He's all over YouTube. He is one of those people who's got a voice and doesn't mind using it. And it's good. All the things I've heard you say are absolutely right on. It's just amazing how and I guess it's up to William Tincup, who's brought us all together in this Work-Defined Podcast Network. Tell us a little bit about you and tell us a little bit about collegerecruiter.com.
Yeah, sure. So I grew up in Winnipeg, Canada, which is a city at the time about 600,000. I think it's 750,000 or something now.
Wow.
Right in the middle of Canada. Like if you were to take a map of Canada and fold it in half, east-west, it's like 10 miles west of the center. So it's like right above North Dakota, Minnesota, that in that area.
Yep.
If you're looking at a weather map in the winter, it's always in the blue. And I moved from Winnipeg to Minneapolis, where I've lived since for grad school. I like to joke that I'm the only person in the history of Minnesota to have ever moved here for the weather. And
it is a heck of a lot better weather, right? I mean,
it is warmer.
Step up.
We had a bit of a cold spell earlier this year, and it did remind me of kind of like what it was like growing up, where like when you spit, it bounced because it froze before it hit the ground. Yeah, it was like, but life is a lot better here, in at least weather wise and whatever. I started the business that College Recruiter grew out of, actually as just like a summer job when I was in college. I published a map of my undergraduate university, sold advertising around the borders.
That's amazing.
Handed it off to a couple of friends of mine, one who just ran it until about a year ago, they retired.
Wow.
And after grad school, law school here in Minnesota, I worked for a year as a lawyer. Got out because I wanted to enjoy my life. At the same time, went on a blind date with a woman who later became my wife. We're coming up on 33 years. So yeah, I mean, life is full of happy accidents.
So everybody, don't come to me for relationship advice. I've been divorced twice. Go to Stephen. We're going to put his email, phone number, and advice column in the...
Yeah, marital counseling or whatever, that is not in my forte.
It's not part of your consultancy?
Remember Zsa Zsa Gabor when I was a kid? She was really famous, and she used to joke that I think she was married like 8 times, and so she would joke that she was obviously really good at it because she did it so many times. I guess I'm bad at it. You're better.
I'm very good at it. I'd rather be you than me.
Hey,
richer than poorer, and sane.
And also, like, you're a New York Rangers fan. I'm a Minnesota Wild fan. And this year, I can gloat.
Yeah.
Most years, very much the other way around.
Well, and I could say Winnipeg Jets, which...
Oof.
Yeah.
Well, they're in Utah.
Hey, listen, good for them. The Mammoth are doing great.
Yeah.
And
it's nice to see.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, as we do on every episode, Stephen, for our listeners to get to know you even a little better, what's one fun thing that no one knows about you?
Yeah, well, the thing that I thought people would get a kick out of, and also why I was like teasing you a little bit about hockey, it's a hockey story. So growing up in Winnipeg, the professional hockey team there when I was a kid was the Winnipeg Jets, and they were in what was called the World Hockey Association. It was a rival league to the NHL. Not as good, for sure, but somewhat on
the
par.
Whalers.
Yeah, on like a really good day, a really good WHA team could beat a really bad NHL team. And the Winnipeg Jets were kind of the class of the league. The last season, everybody knew from, I think, roughly December or January that the league was folding, and 4 teams, one of them being Winnipeg, was going to be added to the NHL, merged into the NHL.
Right.
So the playoff run, the Jets barely made it in. And then they get to the finals. And in the finals, they're playing the Edmonton Oilers with a barely 18-year-old Wayne Gretzky on the team. And everybody expected Edmonton to win. The Jets actually won. I bought a ticket as a 13-year-old on the glass. And in those days, the glass was a lot shorter.
Oh, yeah.
So that if the Jets won, I could jump onto the ice. Which used to be a thing. It's still like in soccer, you see that still a lot, even in football. And in hockey, you don't see it because the glass is now too high for people to climb over. The puck went from the zone that I was in or sitting next to the other end with about 5 seconds left. Being 13, not having a fully developed frontal lobe, I thought that would be a really smart time to jump onto the ice because that way I would get to the scrum and get a stick from my favorite player first. And I got onto the ice and I saw a video years ago and I actually could see myself hitting the ice. It was with 2.5 seconds left in the game. No, the Jets did not get a too many men on the ice penalty for me being out there.
You got escorted out of the arena.
Yeah. So I got down to the scrum, got a stick from my favorite player, and then a very nice Royal Canadian Mounted Policeman asked me to leave the ice. Never occurred to me until years later that I probably should have been arrested. Now, at the age of 13, nothing else.
But also back then, Stephen, I think they were a little more relaxed about it, especially in Canada.
Yeah. They probably would have given me a slab of back bacon and a bottle of maple syrup and sent me on my way.
Well, that's reform. That's the reforming principles of the Canadian penal system.
Exactly. So I guess looking back, I've always been a bit of a risk taker.
Yeah.
Never somebody to skydiving or whatever, but I do think you have to have this, what's the worst that can happen? Kind of mentality when you're starting your own business and doing that kind of thing. And so it doesn't surprise me looking back to 21-year-old me starting a business when I was in college. What's the worst that could happen?
Right.
And then that business fortunately grew into what College Recruiter is now. And we help about 1 million mostly young adults find early career postings in dozens of countries around the world. So it's rewarding. When we sit back and kind of say, we made a difference in the lives of millions and millions of people. Even if you're a recruiter who's handling 24 recs at any given time.
Yeah.
And maybe that takes, 60 days on average to close a rec. So, over the course of a year, you've helped dozens of people provide for their families and made, I think that we in HR, in talent acquisition, in related industries, we all need to take a step back at times.
Yeah.
And think about, yes, we're being paid for what we do. Yes, sometimes our bosses are jerks and our customers might not pay us and our vendors maybe screw up. But at the end of the day, we do really honorable work.
We really do. We really do. And by the way, I'm going to put links to, obviously, collegerecruiter.com. We can talk about it a lot, but we're going to put links to collegerecruiter.com on the show notes as well as everywhere so that people can reach out to you and continue to do the amazing work you're doing.
Cool. Thank you.
So we're going to transition to the topic now, Stephen, because this is one of those fun topics that are right up your alley. And it's about the metrics we use for recruiting. In this case, is cost per qualified application what is called or termed CPQA a step in the right direction?
If you're looking to explore fresh perspectives, dive into compensation tech, or just enjoy a lively conversation and debates about the evolving world of total rewards, you're in the right place. Welcome to Totally Rewarding Chats, where we discuss the future of compensation, benefits, talent, and all things HR tech. I'm Sean Luchins, VP of Product Strategy at Salary.com, bringing years of product and development perspective. Joining me is the bow tie wearing, comp tech loving, experienced guru Paul Ryman, founder and managing partner of Novo Insights. Together, we'll be jamming with guests and sharing candid, unfiltered conversations about total reward strategy, compensation technology, talent trends, and anything else we find interesting in the world of HR.
So, Stephen, getting into this, the first question is, let's talk about the pricing model for employers to advertise their job openings. It's really been pretty steady state until Indeed has created this new approach. What was the old model and why did it exist?
Yeah, literally for hundreds of years, employers basically, we call it like post and pray in today's language, but they would go down to their local printer, and, pay that person, X dollars or pounds or shillings or whatever it was.
Or a
print
bag
up
of
a
money.
bunch of flyers, nail them to trees.
Yeah.
Maybe those job postings worked and maybe they didn't. You'd run them in newspapers, they'd run them on TV. So it's what at College Recruiter, we refer to it as traditional duration-based pricing. You pay X dollars for I job postings or Y days or something along those lines, and you get what you get. That doesn't mean that you get bad results. You could actually completely knock it out of the park. Maybe you run a $200 job posting for 30 days and you wanted to hire one administrative assistant, but you end up hiring two. That's not such a bad thing at all. And your cost per hire, if the ad works well, is always a bargain. Like there's never job advertising that costs too much if you hired somebody.
And if you hired somebody and they stick around.
Yeah. The problem was that a lot of ads didn't work. They didn't generate the candidate flow. Not enough of them applied. Not enough of those who were applied were hired. So Indeed did not invent it. Actually, Top USA Jobs was the first job board to charge on a performance basis. And this is going back about 20 years now. But they started to charge on a cost per click basis. Every time a candidate saw the posting on the job board, clicked the apply button to go over to the employer's site, typically the ATS, that's the click. I still get asked for that definition, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Like half the time that I'm having conversations with employers, and spoiler alert, it's because Indeed kind of muddied the waters. But in any case, what Indeed did...
Stephen, unless they're actually in the business of advertising,
CPC
doesn't mean anything to them.
Right, although if they are in recruitment marketing, and this is the 1,000th time they bought a cost per click posting, they should know what that click means.
Absolutely.
And I'm not saying that they're stupid or uninformed or anything. The problem is with the vendors. It's not with the buyers because the vendors use different definitions. So that is by far the most disconnect. When a potential buyer asks me, what do we mean by a click? They're doing their due diligence. They're being careful that a click, that how we define it is the same as how they define it. So it's a good thing, but it's freaking annoying because we shouldn't have to waste time on stuff like that. It should just be universally understood what that means.
Right.
Indeed came along, 15 years ago roughly is when they started to become very popular. And instead of charging on a traditional duration basis, a 30-day posting for $200, they allowed, then started to encourage it, then pretty much required it for employers to pay on a cost per click basis. Initially, that click was to the employer site. Then it was, here's Indeed search results. And if you click to see the job detail, that's the click they were charging from. And that confused
things. It's not even an application. It's just seeing the job description.
Yeah, it's just like, show me more on Indeed. It is intent. There is more value. More of those candidates will turn into applicants and all the way through, but it was a non-standard definition. And so it confused the marketplace and continues to. Then Indeed, about 2 years ago, tried to shift all of that cost per click to cost per application.
Yeah.
I liked the idea. I liked where they were going. I did not like the communications. They didn't give employers enough time, enough of an explanation. It was kind of confusing. It feels like they were maybe in a rush for some reason.
Why would they be? Unless it was, forced on them by some issue.
Yeah. It was during a time with that post-COVID hiring boom.
Oh.
Employers were falling all over themselves to spend way too much money hiring way too few people. And maybe they felt like they had a window of opportunity where they could employers were so desperate that they could maybe force that change through. And they were right to say that clock was ticking because that market kind of ground to a halt pretty quickly. Cost per application is, everything else being equal, better than cost per click.
Yes.
And that's better than duration-based because the media, Indeed, College Recruiter, LinkedIn, whoever, takes on more of the risk. When we take on more of the risk of the ad performing or not performing, that means our interests are more aligned with yours, the employer. And because if you don't get the results you want, we don't get paid. And that makes us care more about getting you what you really want. Now, the problem with cost per application is that suddenly, instead of employers spending $200 a month or 80 cents a click, so kind of like relatively small numbers, suddenly they were being charged like $40 an application, and they get a couple hundred of them. And they'd start to look at the applications, and instead of saying, well, I just wasted 80 cents on this click, now they're wasting $40 on an application. It feels worse. It's actually not, but it feels worse. And, it's like death by 1,000 paper cuts. If you walk down the street and you drop a dime, in front of every house, it doesn't really feel as bad as if you drop $1 every 10 houses. Somehow, it just feels worse to drop $1 than 10 dimes.
Right.
So there's been a push, mostly on the vendor side, to move employers from paying cost per application, to the extent that some are, to what is generally called CPQA, cost per sometimes quality, but usually qualified application. There are different definitions
of that
of
qualification, though. That's the question.
Yeah, and every employer has a different definition. And if you work for a large employer and there are 20 recruiters there, there'll be 20 different definitions at any given time.
Yeah, of
and
course.
Each of those recruiters, if they come into work on a Monday morning and they're happy and feeling optimistic, their definition of what a qualified application is different than on Tuesday afternoon when their boss has just yelled at them. It's subjective.
Oh, absolutely. But isn't this just an evolution of the entire process? Because you laid it out pretty nicely when we started talking about this, that this really goes back to the days when you used to bring a bag of money to a printing shop to create the thing that you'd post on a wall or on a stump somewhere, and people would see it, and then they'd walk over to you and apply, or walk into a restaurant or whatever and apply. So there are steps along the way of the evolution of the process itself, but the thinking itself. And typically, we do this in HR all the time. Our processes are rooted in 200-year-old thought processes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And what we as an industry are really good at is taking a broken process and scaling it.
Scaling it so well that it's so still broke. It's actually worse than it was before.
Yeah, like way before I met her, my wife was a consultant for an aircraft manufacturer in Canada.
Yeah.
And she goes in and she's like looking at their costs and stuff. And they were literally selling airplanes for less than the cost of the raw materials.
Oh.
So she says to the manager, the person at the aircraft, it's like, how does this make any sense? Thinking that the manager is going to be like, well, this is kind of like a pilot, or we're testing this out, pilot, pun intended, process or something. Once we figure out how to build these planes, then we're going to source cheaper materials, and that's when we're going to make a profit. No. The answer back was, we're going to make it up on volume. It's kind of like if McDonald's was selling Big Macs at 10 cents a piece, and the answer to get to profitability is like, well, let's just sell billions of Big Macs at 10 cents a piece. It's like, that doesn't make any sense.
No, it
doesn't. That's also how it works with applications. About 2% of candidates who go to an ATS, 2 to 5%, will convert into an application. Now, some people might say, well, if 95% of candidates drop off, that's a broken process. It's actually not, because it means that those people aren't wasting their time or the recruiter's time. They read your job posting. It's the wrong salary. It's the wrong location. You know, you had a bunch of like vague BS language that turns them off, like we're family friendly and whatever, work-life balance. It's like blah, 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 blah.
We're
If
going to work
that's the best you can do to
what
convince me to apply, then guess what? I'm not going to apply. Better for them to opt out.
Yeah.
But what we're really, really, really good at is getting more people to apply who are not well qualified, and then spending a lot of time on those people and not enough time on the people who actually are ready, willing, and able to do the job and that you want them to do it. Those are the qualified applications.
But Stephen,
and employers should be happy to pay for those, and they say that's what they want, but they actually are unwilling to pay for those. And when you do deliver those candidates to them, it's amazing the pushback that you get.
Stephen, don't you think that some of the inputs to the processes that the recruiter's going through, like the job description and the description of the company even, or how they describe things, that's really not putting their best foot forward because it's been so low quality that they're setting themselves up for a disaster because they don't have the job formulated correctly. They don't talk to the audience that they're looking for. A lot of times the language is biased.
Yeah.
Against certain groups and towards others. So aren't they missing steps to make that ROI even better for that?
Yeah. I mean, it's like they're stuck, you know, they're like running a marathon, and the very first step that they take is like they forget to like tie their shoes and they've fallen flat on their face. And then they spend the rest of the race trying to catch up.
Right.
But the error that they made was right at the beginning when they didn't tie their shoes.
Right.
That's the kind of mistake, quite frankly, like somebody with ADHD like me, that we're really, really good at making.
Right.
It's kind of like acting before thinking, doing something without the proper preparation, and just jump in. What's the worst that can happen? Well, the worst that can happen is you build a bad process and then you scale it. So I wouldn't be surprised, David, if at least 80% of job postings that you see online, on the ATS, on Indeed, on a college recruiter, anywhere, that job posting was actually not written for that job.
Of course.
That it's employers saying, I need to hire a sales rep for my aluminum manufacturing company in Topeka.
Right.
I'm going to go to Indeed and I'm going to see.
Copy and paste.
Right. Exactly. Similar postings. I'm going to copy and paste that. Maybe I'll remember to change some of the details.
Right.
Maybe
Especially
I won't.
The company name.
Yeah, and I've seen that. I've literally seen XYZ company, and you see in the body of the job description, we at ABC company, blah, blah. It's like, okay, I know what you did. Understandable, but still wrong. But and that's where a lot of this vague, vanilla, sometimes misleading language comes from. What I also see a lot of, and hell, we've been guilty of this. We hired somebody 2 years ago for this role. Maybe they were great. Maybe they weren't. They've left. Maybe their choice, maybe our choice. Now we're hiring for that same role again. We go back to the job posting from 2 years ago.
Right.
We make some light edits and we advertise for it again. Now, if that person that we had before was great, that makes sense. But if they quit because they were not a good fit for us, or if we fired them because they were not a good fit for us, why would we want to use the same document again?
Right.
Shouldn't it be different?
What's the definition of insanity?
Doing the same thing twice and expecting different results.
Exactly.
Doing the same thing twice and expecting different results. Oh, okay. Sorry.
But doesn't, and I know I'm going a little off script here, but doesn't the world of pay transparency change this a little bit though, Stephen? Because now states are basically regulating that you need to give them the good job description, you need to tell them the career path, you need to tell them all the things about the job, including how much is the benefit. I almost said benefits.
I love pay transparency, right? For an employer, it can be very uncomfortable. But the employers that are the most uncomfortable with it are the ones that are who are underpaying the most.
Absolutely.
It's a form of wage theft.
Absolutely.
If if you're hiring me and you don't share that salary with me, why? It's because you want to increase your negotiating power.
Exactly.
Right? And what that really means is that you want to pay me the least amount that I'm willing to take rather than the amount that I deserve.
Yep.
Those are not often aligned. And if that happens, I'm probably going to have friends and family who will find out that you're paying me $22 an hour and you should have been paying me $28 an hour. And then I'm going to quit. And maybe I'll be honest with you about why, and maybe I won't be, or I'll be disgruntled. It's just,
Right.
it's very short-sighted not to pay people what they deserve. But David, I think to your point of doesn't it help? 100%.
Yeah.
If I'm hiring, let's say a salesperson, and the posting says $200,000 a year, that sends a very strong signal to the candidates that you are a rock star. You are really, really good.
Yep.
On the other hand, if I'm advertising a sales position at $38,000 a year, right? That says it's probably not like we're not looking for a high-end person.
Right.
We're looking for somebody very junior who,
Right.
probably has never done sales before, something along those lines.
Right.
People opt in and opt out. That person with no sales experience is very unlikely to apply to the $200,000 a year job. And definitely the person who's qualified for 200,000 is very unlikely to apply for the 38,000.
Yeah.
So you end up with a better quality applicant pool when you're more candid.
Well, it's caveat emptor, right? And
Yeah.
not just buyer beware on one side, like on the employer side, but on the employee side as well.
Yeah.
If you're signing up for something that, first of all, you feel like you're an imposter for, because as you said, you're not going to get the junior person to apply for the 200, but you're also not going to get the really experienced salesperson to sign up for the 38. You got to be honest and you got to figure. And the other thing I was going to say from what you were talking about before, people can talk about it in the water cooler. They don't have to talk to their aunts and uncles. They can go to the water cooler and talk about it, and you cannot fire them anymore. I was that guy at Morgan Stanley who used to sit people down and say, you can't say this anymore. You can't talk about pay, because if you do, you're going to get fired.
Yep.
That was 30 something years ago.
Yep. And why, whether it's Morgan Stanley or anybody else, like the only reason why they would be saying that is because they knew that they were underpaying some of their employees. If they were paying all of their employees fairly, and we can talk about what that means, because that's another whole ball of wax.
That's a whole other podcast, Stephen.
Yeah. I honestly do think, David, though, that I really do think that almost all employers want to pay fairly. But I also think that very few employers know what fair is.
I agree. I agree to both that point, except I've seen the former. I've seen people say otherwise. I've seen people who say, I don't want to know that I'm paying unfairly. Really? You do? You don't want to know?
Isn't that deliberate ignorance like that, though?
I call
Aren't they really saying that they do want to pay unfairly? They just don't want it documented?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I call it the ostrich syndrome.
Yeah.
But let's get back to your question, because I think it's a really good one to go back to the original topic, which is the cost per click. And do employers have a preference? Are they happy with CPC? Are they happy with the new way of how things work? You were getting there a little bit talking about, the dropping dimes instead of the dollars. But is there really an answer here?
No. It's short no.
All right. Well, thank you very much for being on the program.
That wraps it up. It's like, what did I listen to a 30-minute podcast for to get to a no like this? The problem is that sort of like a lot of employers intellectually, when they're talking to you, if they're writing an email, having a Zoom call, whatever, they will say they want quality. They can't define it.
Yeah.
Even qualified, we need these questions to be answered the same way. And if you really start to dig into the process, you'll find out that candidates who answer all of those qualification questions accurately and then become a qualified applicant, employers will get those and they will reject out of hand 9 out of 10 of those people because they didn't have something else. That's a qualification. So at the end of the day, what we all want is to be lazy. I mean, let's just be candid about it. It's the last person who really embraced my struggle and called it Mein Kampf and didn't end so well for him or a lot of other people. People don't want to struggle. We don't want to work hard to get results if we can get those results easier. So employers want to pay per click. I'll pay College Recruiter $1 and have that one click convert into one applicant who is the perfect hire, who is transformative in your organization. It's just like it's a pipe dream. So that never happens. So then you end up in this situation where employers want quality. That makes sense. But the reality is, because they're not able to define it well, they end up getting candidates who they have to pay a fair amount per qualified application, $40 or whatever it might be, times 50 or 100 applications. So it can easily be thousands of dollars. And then the employers sit down and they look at the applications, at the resumes, and it's like, I don't like this person, I don't like this person, I don't like this person, I don't like this person. And so they feel like they're wasting money. They want that 3 finalist high touch treatment that like an executive recruiting firm will deliver, but at the price of a job posting ad for like $100 or $200. And it's like, you can't have, well, it's a stupid expression. I never understood it, but the having your cake and eating it too. When would you ever get cake but not eat it?
I think that's whatever. In 1800s.
But at the end of the day, the employers that are able to hire the people that they really want are the ones, I think, who just say, we need to spend money in order to get these people. And if they're being short-sighted and trying to cut corners and save nickels and dimes, they're just going to end up with a longer hiring cycle. They're going to end up hiring the people who aren't well suited. They're going to have higher turnover. And I get it, if you've got a $20,000 a year recruitment advertising budget and you got to hire 300 people, you got to cut corners.
Well, does the advent of AI and some of these AI bots that will do some of the first levels of interview or some of the new technologies, does it change the equation, like having assessments built in the application so you can get a qualification statement as long as they're not being lazy about writing the right specs?
I would respond to that again, generally no. Today, 3 years from now, maybe. 2 problems. One is garbage in, garbage out.
Right, absolutely.
Job postings, job descriptions overwhelmingly are horribly written. So to feed to the AI, this is who we want. When you haven't done a good job of doing that, you're going to send the AI, just like you would on a recruiter, down the wrong track. Candidate resumes, just as poorly written. So even if the AI understands what the employer wants, when it goes out and looks at the candidates, the resumes are not good descriptors of who those people are, what their qualifications are. So now you're putting a bad job description up against a bad resume. Welcome to the world of recruiting. Welcome to scaling a bad process. And that's what AI in that sense does. The other problem that I have with AI, David, and we could talk about this another time, on or offline, whatever, is that most of the systems I've seen are horribly illegal. There's no way to query these AI systems and get them to answer accurately. Why did you choose this candidate over this candidate? Why did you rank this and this? Most of these systems will give you a reason, but the AI companies, the Anthropics, the OpenAIs of the world, they have been candid over the last year that when that is not reliable, when you query the AI to say, how did you reach that decision? The AI will make up a plausible explanation, but there's no paper trail. There's no way of knowing how it actually made that decision.
Unless at the moment they're dispositioning, that is saved as the criteria, as part of the criteria for the disposition, right? So what's your thinking, and have that be part of the audit log? Because you're right, a day later, even a moment later, their criteria could be different and the disposition could be different.
Yeah, except I agree. And maybe 3 years from now, that's how it'll work.
Yeah.
But all of the major AI companies have said unequivocally that's not how their systems work.
Of course.
And almost all of the AI hiring systems use on the back end, Anthropic, Perplexity, OpenAI, whatever. It's kind of a really nice skin on a handful of these products. And so it's retrospective.
Yeah.
They're all asking the AI, how did you make that decision?
Yeah.
And the AI is not able to say how it is making that
or
decision.
hallucinating the answer as well, which is, we don't know, but we're going to tell you something that sounds okay. And did that work for you? Where did you come up with that? I just made it up.
Yeah. And of course, the AI is rarely going to say it made it up. It's starting, some of them are starting to do that. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
But a lot of times it will just come back and it'll just be very certain. And it'll be like, I'm talking to you and you know what you're talking about and you know something with certainty. I'm going to rely on that. But if you're talking to AI, it's grabbing information from a million different places, kind of compiling it, giving it a best guess, and it might be 68% confident that it's got the right answer, but it's going to talk to you as if it's 100%. And it does that when it's talking about how it ranked candidates.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is legally just, that's very dangerous.
And to that point, there's a ton of other issues. Like we just saw this FCRA issue that happened with Eightfold, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And, that still has yet to play out in the courts. So how did you score these people? And did you give them the appropriate disclosures?
Right.
And are you reporting it to the FCRA? Because that's required under FCRA regulations. I had to deal with this when I was in an earlier job.
Sounds so fun.
But it is. So, Stephen, you've been awesome. I'm going to have you back on to talk a little bit more about not only the technology behind this, but also the appropriate processes, because I think there's so much we left on the floor that we could have talked about around, how do people choose appropriately? And is it just the economics of the CPC or the CPQRA?
We can absolutely walk through, like, when is one better than the other?
Exactly.
Right? If you've got one vendor who's only doing duration-based pricing and another vendor who's doing cost per application, should you go with one or the other? Is that sometimes the answer to that is yes and no, and we could talk about that another time.
But just don't have the AI choose it for you.
Yeah, I mean, you and I should have our AI agents have a conversation and see how your audience enjoys that.
What do they call that? Infinite loop
or dystopia.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we're living that anyways. But anyways, on that note, it's been such a pleasure, Stephen. Better than I ever could have imagined our conversation to be.
I'll take that as an insult.
No, don't.
I'm kidding.
Listen, the fact that you're a hockey player or a hockey appreciating person.
Yeah.
It's kismet. We're right on the same path. You could see my goalie helmet's back here.
Oh, I am so envious.
Well, don't be envious of all the concussions I've got from the blows to the head from all these pucks. That's why I stutter sometimes, because I've had 13 concussions playing hockey, at least. But thank you very much. It's been awesome. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to have you back on again because it's just been so much fun. And we'll do it soon.
Deal, my friend.
All right. Thank you very much. Take care. Take care, everybody, and stay safe. Thank you for listening to the HR Data Labs podcast. Don't forget to hit subscribe and share it with your network. You can also check out the recordings on Spotify or the HR channel, now on Roku and Fire TV. Thank you, take care, and stay safe.